Hello and welcome to another Mercy Tiara Pocket Process video. This one's a direct continuation from my May 2023 Project Life Part 1 video. This one, for this particular video, which is Part 2, I'm going to be scrapbooking an insert that goes along with my May pages. This insert documents our evacuation and the wildfires that were in our community in May. And so there are lots of photos here. Some of them are from the internet. So that one of cars with fire close to them, that is not how we evacuated. Although that was the street that is very close to our neighborhood that we would have driven down, but it was closed by the time we evacuated. We evacuated after all of these people already left. So anyhow, I have a combination of personal photos as well as photos from Facebook and the internet here. And I am going to be documenting it all in a half of a Design A page protector. And as you can see, I'm just playing around with the layout here. And I have a template here that includes a half of a Design A page protector. And this will be on the front side of it. And then the other photos that I put up on the other template will be on the back side of it. So I'm starting with these, and I'm just going to take my outdoorsy kit and see what I've got, because this is another DIY page. I'm not using Project Life cards or pocket page cards from any kits or manufacturer. I'm just using my own 12 by 12 supplies. In this case, it is the outdoorsy kit from Mercy Tiara Kits. And I'm just using my supplies on hand. I just decided that I had been getting Project Life kits for so long and not really using even a tiny fraction of the kits that were coming in each month. And even when I was doing weekly Project Life, I never used as many cards as what I would get from the kits that I was getting. So I kind of feel like I have enough cards on hand, but I also am really enjoying using my 12 by 12 kits as like the leftovers from my kits. After I do some 12 by 12 pages, I just use the leftovers to do some Project Life, and I'm really loving doing it this way. So my first step is to cut one of those pattern papers down to 4 by 6 and another piece of pattern paper into a 3 by 4. And as you can see, I'm wanting to lift the flap right here. I just can't decide exactly how it's going to go or what I'm going to put on it, so I'm just kind of playing around with what I have on hand. I have the Nope stamp set from Mercy Tiara Kits there, and I definitely want to use some of the sayings on that. And then I just grabbed some red thickers and letter stickers from my stash. So the reason I went with red was that I want to put like the title Evacuate on here, and I thought that red would be a good color for doing that. So I've decided to use these letter stickers. They're old letter stickers from Fancy Pants, but I really loved how bold they are and chunky, and they're, very easily readable. And so having a title like Evacuate, it seems like it would be good to have it in this kind of a font. So as you can see, Evacuate fits beautifully across this, but I want to put a little something else on here too. So I'm going to put Evacuate. It fits perfectly, so I'm just going to, shift a couple of the letter stickers around there, but it looks good for the most part. Looks like I'm going to shift that V a little bit so that it nests in nicely with the A. And now I'm going to say Evacuate ASAP. Just because Evacuate by itself looked a little lonely, and so I thought just putting this ASAP on here would kind of add to the feeling of, we were told to evacuate as soon as possible by our neighbor who's a police officer. So, and that's in the story that is part of this. So I definitely want to do this, and I'm thinking I'll put the packed car in there. So like usually when people are evacuating, they don't really have time to do things like take a picture of their car. We were evacuating much more leisurely than what we probably should have. We did not realize that. I don't know why we weren't looking on social media, but we were not looking on social media, and we just thought it was a fire and that they were evacuating us just in case, just to be on the safe side. We did not realize that there was actually a raging out of control wildfire just next to our neighborhood. But now we know. Now I think in the future we will be more cautious. We don't have up until now we have never really had forest fires around here very much. In fact, our firefighters aren't even trained to put out forest fires and we don't have like those bomber airplanes that drop water. We don't have any of that stuff because we don't usually get forest fires around here. But I guess that's all changed. We've got a roller date stamp there that just has the date, which was May 28th. That's the day that we evacuated. And I'm using a 6x8 Kelly Perky card here. This is in her documenter kits, she includes these beautiful 6x8 papers that are really thick cardstock. And so they're great for using these lift the flaps. And so I just took that 6x8, scored it at the 4-inch mark so that it's basically a tented 6x4. And now I am going to color this. I'm just using my Crayola Super Tips here. I often use Crayola Super Tips for this particular font. I love this font, this outline, and that is a big part of why it's on this stamp set. And so I'm just using my Crayola Super Tips because they fit almost perfectly in this font. Sorry about the lack of focus there. There we go. So this stamp says, "What were we thinking?" And I just colored it in red to coordinate with the red on the outside of that one. I'm going to put a little bit of washi tape along the top just to cover. It's not going to completely cover it, but it's just going to tone down the distraction of the backside of that pattern paper just showing a little tiny bit. Because washi tape is not completely opaque, so you can see through the washi tape, but it just takes away from the distraction of that. Now I'm going to inset this emergency alert that went off after we were already out of the neighborhood. That's when they told us to evacuate, but our friends had already told us to evacuate, so we were already on our way. So my journaling here, I'm just going to write it with my Sharpie pen. And I'll read it to you. It says, "When Liv came home and told us there was a fire in Westwood, we were outside relaxing and ordering supplies for the next kit. We didn't realize it was a forest fire. We thought it was a house fire because we rarely have forest fires. When the evacuation order came for Westwood, we considered leaving, but thought that might contribute to chaos at the plaza. So we half-heartedly packed and got the cats gathered, but we stayed put and actually ate supper, not knowing most of our neighbors had already left. We got a text from Carl saying Marcus says to leave now. So we hopped in the car and left." So we had already packed the car, but we just didn't leave yet because we thought we weren't told to leave. So we were just kind of doing what we were told. And, obviously we knew we could leave, but we just thought we didn't want to make matters worse. Basically, these two neighborhoods both empty into this, there's one exit out of both of these neighborhoods, technically two, but they're right beside each other. So anyways, our two neighborhoods both exit into the same little intersection. And we thought, and there's 700 homes in our neighborhood, and I think there's 800 or 900 in that neighborhood. So we thought, let's let them evacuate first because that's where the fire actually is, and then we would leave. But yeah, and I mean, we were safe and fine, and so it's not but we were just safe and fine because we were lucky, not because we were cautious or, responsible. So that was a screenshot. So I just cut off the top and the bottom there because I didn't want to have all that black on the page. And so I just also trimmed off the edges because I didn't want to have to worry about figuring out how to mat it on white to have it be even. So I just trimmed it all the way down. And now I'm just writing here. It says, "We had no idea this was what the SMC looked like." So we couldn't see because our neighborhoods are so heavily forested. We couldn't really see all that smoke that was nearby. And so now this is a picture of the smoke. As you can see, it doesn't look that dark and gray. It looks kind of like clouds, but if you look close enough, it's not clouds, it's smoke. So it says we were in the backyard eating supper and we couldn't see this smoke. So that's the smoke from the front. That's a photo from the front of the house. And that was when we were kind of thinking, well, maybe we should leave, when we went out front and saw all that smoke. So now this is a photo of us leaving right before I started driving. And we all have kind of like sad faces on. And it says, me, Annabelle, and Sophie and Nixie took the Fit, while Scott, Liv, and Rocky, and Chloe, and Lila took the Sorrento. We got evacuation orders as we approached the plaza. So I am underlining that, and I'm just using labels from my stash here. I'm telling my patrons a little story about what's in that photo. And now I'm ready to do the back side of this insert. So I have another piece of that pattern paper that was cut to 4x6, and I just cut it in half so that I'm basically using the same two pieces of pattern paper, but just in different sizes here for these pockets. And I have a category of stamps called Bad Day stamps, and these include a couple of swear word sets as well as 2 sets from Paper Person and 1 set from Mercy Tiara Kits, and that's the Nope set. So I am just going to take this piece of 6x8 paper. It's another one from that Kelly Perky or Paper Person kits, older kits. And so I am just going to put my photo on the front of that flap. And then you open it up, and I love that these papers have lined backs on them because you can just leave it. You don't have to add another card there for your journaling. And I'm going to put a whole lot of journaling on. I'm going to fill this whole card with journaling. So it says, we received the evacuation orders for our own neighborhood as we approached the plaza and began to realize the extent of the wildfire. We had planned to rendezvous at the Starbucks in Bears Lake. And then in brackets, I put Live Starbucks. When we arrived, lots of our neighbors were already there, including Bill and Tanya from across the street. I was thinking we should just sit tight for a few hours in a coffee shop and would likely be allowed home later that evening, but we decided to get a hotel room for the night to feel more settled. As we called and drove to various hotels, they were all booked up with evacuees. There were no vacancies we could find, and Jen and Adam were possibly being evacuated too. In brackets, it turns out they weren't. So we couldn't stay with them. I Googled pet-friendly hotels plus Truro, and the first place that came up had openings. Glengarry Motel it was. When we arrived, we were shocked to find Bill and Tanya and Oz were our next door neighbors. Little did we know we would be there 6 days. So I just skipped a little bit forward there so that you didn't have to watch me writing all of that. And I'm just going to leave that just as it is. But what I'd like to do is put a series of stamps on this pink piece of cardstock here from the Outdoorsy kit. And I'm just going to pick a bunch of stamps that are relevant. This is a Paper Person stamp set. This particular set is called Bad News from Paper Person. And I have one on there that says, well, this sure escalated quickly. Another one says, is this really happening? And the other one says tension level, and you can say low, moderate, or high. And those are all from the Bad Day stamp set. I'm going to use my Misty for this, and I'm going to stamp them in all different colors. So this first one is Pacific Point from Stampin' Up. And I'm using my Misty, and I'm stamping these multiple times because this is Cardabella pattern paper, which has a texture to it. It's a nice thick cardstock kind of pattern paper, and it does have a fair amount of texture to it. So I'm anticipating that I'm going to need to stamp multiple times. It turns out I didn't with this one. And next for this, is this really happening? I'm going to use Old Olive, I think. Yeah, Old Olive. And that other one, the red one, was probably Cherry Cobbler. So I now have this card that has all of these bad day sayings on it. And there's a big chunk of open space there. So I just went into my wood veneer stash and I'm grabbing 3 of these explosion-like wood veneers. I don't know what they're supposed to be, if they're stars or fireworks or what they are, but I just like them, so I'm going to use them here. I used my my Art Glitter Dries Clear glue for that. And now I'm moving on to the other 3x4 pocket, on which I have another screenshot of the neighborhood across from us and a Facebook friend driving out of the neighborhood. And it says, this was one of our neighbors' view as they left our neighborhood. We did not see fire as the HPR was closed. So if we left our neighborhood and turned right, we would have seen that, but we actually weren't allowed to turn right by the time we left, which was, again, after a lot of other people had already left. That road was blocked, so we had to turn left. So now this photo from the news here, I'm stamping no good, horrible, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, and that's also from the bad news stamp set. And that just adds to my storytelling here and also fills up that gray space above the news outlet's logo. And then I just have this, which is basically just a screenshot of what the announcement was about the government making a press release and all that sort of thing. So I'm just putting those in the pockets, putting everything that's done inside of the pockets, and now we'll put that there. And then this is a photo flip, a lift the flap photo flip, and now this one is done. Now those photo flips the 4x6 ones do open sideways, so when you put them down in this position, you're going to cover your hole on your page protector. So I'm just taking my We Are Memory Keepers hole punch, and I'm just repunching that. And I punched it a couple times just because it's actually a bit of it's an oval hole that goes there. So I just punched 2 beside each other to make an oval. And now I'm going to put these in between the 2 pages that the spread that I just made. So as you can see, this is, so the page after this I've already scrapped, and that's the fire and us being evacuated, and also kind of going back home after the evacuation. So, oops, a few of these moved. But I thought I would just include this process where I just figure out what needs to have a clip on it to keep it closed. So this one was too flappy. Like when I turn the pages, it's getting in the way and sticking up too much. This one, these letters were coming off, so I just had to fix those a little bit. And now this one is a little bit too flappy too, and where it's on the top, it's going to flap itself right out of the pocket. So I'm just going to use this little binder clip to hold that in place, and then a little camera paper clip to hold the other one in place. And I'm just flipping around just to kind of enjoy how my album is coming together. So a great big shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks really do help make this channel happen, so a big thanks to all of them. Here are some of the places that you can find me. Our kit club is mercytiarakits.com. If you're interested in purchasing a kit, you can go there. I also encourage you to comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. And thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. In the meantime, have a really great scrappy week.